Have you ever just sat with yourself and thought about your life? How it just seems so empty, how it always has been. How we struggle through this life and constantly trying to explain ourselves away to others that just don't understand. They just never get us. All they ever have is their own personal opinion about you and how they think you should be and what they think you should do. And at the end of the day, what their opinion comes down to is basically themselves. That's what they did. But that's not your life. Why do you want to do what they did? Aren't we all our own, individual beings? Why are there those of us that had to endure this life of nothing but struggle and suffering? Yet so many of us have the biggest heart. All we do is care. All we do is give a crap and want to love. We want to love life. We want to love others and love the earth. And yet we're seemingly punished for that because we're not like everybody else. Guys, I can't explain like how unfair this life seems, how empty it can be. I am in that emptiness, and I have been for a very long time. My life is honestly, my life's just been a circle. My entire life has just gone in a circle, a repeating circle that seemingly has no end. The same series of things just happen over and over and over. We go through these periods where we seem to be starting to get ahead. We seem to be bettering ourselves. It may even show on the exterior, and yet once we reach a certain point, which isn't very far into that bettering of ourselves, it all unravels again. Because we've reached that half point of that circle to where it's all just dismantling all over again. I'm so tired of it. I'm exhausted of this same cycle, this same endless recycle, repeating itself. And it's not even me. It's it does, it's not even us. Like no matter how hard we try, it just ceases to discontinue. That circle just keeps repeating. Is it God trying to teach us something? Why don't we get it? Why can't we just see it? Because I feel like I've tried everything. I have this book I wrote. I have written my story. The rough draft is done. However, I don't know what to do with it. I don't. I'm not a clue. It's like often I have these times where I feel like I'm just brain dead and I just don't, like I go at things, I focus toward things, and then Always, as many of us do, we run into a wall and we crash. And then we're stuck again, feeling brain dead to the world, asking why. Those of us are such a good person at heart, yet we suffer the most. Yet this system, this structure that we live in, this matrix reality we live in, just will not let us free. I think there are many of us on this earth that are at a point spiritually where we see things now for what they are. We see the truth. And, once you see it, you cannot unsee it. And it is very difficult to accept. But it is what it is. It's the truth. But how do we get past that? And guys, having to live life like this and, go work some job, just to always be stuck in a specific income bracket, as to where you make enough money just to barely get by each week, sometimes not even. We're able to buy ourselves, the clothes we need, some shoes, and feed ourselves. But, the true things we desire in life, the things that mean most to us in life, we just can't seem to obtain them. And those things are not even frivolous. They're not too much to ask for. Everyone else has them. They're not out of the ordinary. I'm talking about those of us that may not even have our own home. Maybe we need a new vehicle because ours is about to kick the bucket. Maybe it has so many miles on it now, it's really reaching that point where it's not going to go much further. There are things you could do to get past that. If you can't afford a new vehicle, you could maybe have the engine replaced and the transmission and such, but that too takes finances. And when you're someone where the system keeps you so stuck and bound, you just can't make those things happen. No matter where you work, you're never paid your true worth, when chances are you're well overqualified for those positions. And I can tell you, I can speak on that for myself as fact. Every position I've ever worked in, I have been well overqualified for them. And I think those employers can see it. They've identified that, yet they want to keep you stuck. They don't want to help you move onward and upward. They want to keep you bound in some low level, no advancement, no progress making for your life situation. And then what happens? We get fed up. So we walk away. What is the point of working some job that you're never going to get anywhere with? You will always barely be scraping by. And really, not even. I mean, often, guys, it's not even bare minimum. You're just waking up each day with hopes and dreams to never get anywhere. I have no friends. Like, I have family, but I don't. It's like they're just there. Most of them are off living in the shadows. I have a child that I was cast out of her life. It's been a long time now. She loved me very much, and I loved her very much. And it's like her mother hated that, and I've always lived this life suffering through inner struggles that nobody can possibly understand. And yet they stand there with their fists on their sides. They look at you and they judge you and they put a label on you, their label of what you are, when they have not a clue what you're going through inside. All they see is what's on the surface, hence judging a book by its cover. You can't do that. How could you know what that book is about if you don't actually read it? And I mean really read it and understand it. So once again, guys, I thought I was about to start getting ahead in life, but it was just that circle going around again. And I reached the point. I saw it coming because it's happened so many times, and then everything starts dismantling again. So now here I am, once again, countless times later, at ground zero, asking myself, what is this? Is this ever going to change? We ask ourselves questions, you know, is it really just me? Is it really just us? Are we just broken? Are we just dumb? Do we just not get it? Are we missing something? But I don't think that's the case. I think the case is that a lot of us on this earth are just so different from everyone else that we're just hated for it. That they don't want good for us. Maybe they see something in us to where they know that if we were to be given those opportunities to move upward, that we would far surpass anything they've ever been. And I think they hate that. They don't want to see us reach those accomplishments, hit those goals. They just want to keep us in a repetitive cycle of failure. And I think I could speak for many on this when I say that I am sick and tired of it. Guys, I do believe in God, as many people say they do, but I think a lot of people say it, but they really don't. But now at the same time, as much as I've prayed, as much as I read scripture, I've been through churches, I sit here and I talk to God. Of course, I don't hear any response, as I'm sure probably none of us ever do. And then we start questioning ourselves, well, is there even a God? Because what good is he doing in my life if he just keeps allowing my life to fail like that? If he just allows us to keep struggling and continue to suffer and hurt inside. There are so many people on this earth that are so fortunate. They were just born into wealth, born into abundance, and they're so damn naive about it, so ungrateful for it, because really they were just born into entitlement, and they think that's just the way it's supposed to be, you know, or they're just the lucky ones. And yeah, maybe they are. Maybe they are the lucky ones. But why, if there's such a loving God, why are there those of us that have such a good heart, such a good, kind, loving heart, that we have to be made to continue to suffer and struggle and have nothing through life the way we do? And at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, nobody really gives a crap. Nobody cares. Because they may look at that other person and say, well, I don't care. That's I good. I better him than me, better her than me. I don't have to deal with that. Too bad for them. The messed up part, guys, is that's not how I think. That is not how I think. Like, I'm honestly somebody that if I had it, I would make sure everybody on this planet had a good life. I wish I had that ability to be able to prove that. Because this life is very hard. It's very hard. People don't care about what you have to say. If it's not trendy, they don't want nothing to do with it. If it's not what everyone else is doing, they don't want nothing to do with it. My path is so different than everyone else's. Often at times, I feel like the only person on the planet. When I think about that, when it really comes down to it, I feel like if that were really the truth, I think my life would be a whole lot better than it actually is. Because people are a problem. They are. People are a problem. Because all they care about is themselves. I don't see any real kindness. I don't see any real love going on. These days, looking around, especially the younger generations, like y'all got lust mixed up with love. Y'all are calling lust love. Y'all are calling greed blessings. Because you live selfishly and greedy and only care about yourself. You say you have a blessed life. I don't see it that way at all. I don't. I see it as you're headed somewhere after this life that you're going to really wish you did different. It's like if the story in the Bible's true, which I think it is, how Satan was cast down to earth from heaven because he was against God. So God gave earth to Satan for his free reign and roam on earth. Essentially, Satan owns this earth and he runs it. And he is an energy. And I see it in so many people. I see it in their eyes. They thrive in making other people struggle and suffer. And by keeping them in lack, while they do bad things to others. So the devil rewards them for that. And I think so many people have fallen for that trick. They think just so they could seemingly have a good life on this earth, that is the way to be, that is the way to live. But I can only imagine what comes after here for being that way. And I also feel that I have been being kept the way that I have been being kept without the ability to do what it is I want to do for this world. Because the enemy does not want that to happen. I'm really trying to figure this out. I really am very all alone. This is not easy. Honestly, don't even know how I'm still here. Often have days where when I go to sleep at night, I often ask to be taken away in my sleep. But then there I am the next morning. I'm woken up as usual in the same nothingness. And it only becomes more and more depressing. Asking why. Why does this keep happening? Why me? This world's only getting worse. Prices are getting higher and higher. The cost of living is getting more and more ridiculous. So many people can't even keep up anymore. So many people are struggling just to make ends meet and just to get by. But then on the other hand, you also have all the temptation and the frustration of, keeping up with the Joneses because everyone else is doing that. Everyone else has this or that. So you should too, right? It's an endless battle. It's an endless struggle. And it just costs more and more and more. I don't know. I don't know about you, but I've been over here praying for a miracle. And I hope it happens because I don't see any other way. Because nothing I've done or tried ever works. I always get sidestepped. I always get a roadblock thrown in front of me or a destructive moment which dismantles all of it. Any progress I've made, it's always 3 steps forward, 3 steps back, start over again. Do you have any idea how frustrating that is? I can't explain how many times it's happened already. Anyway, I guess I'm just going to try and enjoy the rest of my day. At least it's nice outside. Sit here and try to think, even though my thinking doesn't really ever get me anywhere. Because it's like we just can't see a way through. There's always a goalpost getting moved. Always certain paths getting blocked off. Hope you guys have a good rest of your day. God bless you all.